All right, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, we did get the sand battery, the core, well, not even the core, the upper section of the sand battery, like 785 or something. I got a picture of it. Works really well. And I know I said this to you, and I cannot believe I screwed up. This was my own doing. I wrecked it. I derailed it. But it did show me that it really does require a PID controller and at bare minimum some kind of a forced induction, air induction. And meaning that is I was using this as a shim. It was laying up here in the deal, and in the deal wouldn't lay flat because the wires are stainless steel. They're fillet rod. And they just weren't behaving. So I used the brass nut from a union as a shim to jack up, to lift up the edge of the deal while I got it situated. And I had intended I was going to pull it back out. I forgot. And that dude is utterly melted a brass nut from a union. So we got a miniature forge is what we have, y'all, an induction forge. It didn't just melt a little bit of it. It melted like more than half of it. The sand grains are fused again. The element didn't look like it broke except for where it melted right there, where that brass melted into it. I believe it just shorted it out. Or caught, it was no, there it is. I feel the break. Yeah, right where that it hadn't broken yet, but right where it was melted into that nut is where it did break. Okay, that's kind of what I figured. But yeah, the sand grains, or the quartz part of the sand grains, is definitely fused onto the pieces. I'm gonna look for one of these. Last night I already knew it had died. I just didn't know how. So I started looking for a new element made out of stainless steel alloy. We're going to give that a try. I found one local, $50. These are like $10. That's the nichrome wire ones. We're going to jump up and see if that doesn't make a difference. Probably add some kind of a blow dryer kind of gizmo. I looked at Walmart. They're like $10. I'll probably stop in and pick up one. It really needs a PID controller. But those are like $150 for the 3-phase stuff, probably 2 something for the single phase and split phase stuff. 3-phase is cheaper. Why? Don't really know. Probably because it's the most used one for like kilns and stuff is what I'm just assuming. I don't know. But yeah, I need a box, and I can put together a box PID controller for maybe about $100 when it's total. Can you just use it hanging out on the end of wires? Yeah, but that's really sketchy and hokey. That would be like using all these breakers that I have and all the rest hanging out on the end of wires. You really don't want that, y'all. In the boxes, the metal boxes are like $60 a piece. That's just a bare box. And then by the time you put all the junk into it, you're talking $100 bill. You can buy them pre-made. They're about $200, $225, something like that. But I don't have that luxury. Is what I'm trying to get. I got whatever I do. I got to do it on the cheapest cheap that I can do. It was working phenomenally until it croaked. No hiccups, nothing like that. And I almost didn't see what was going on, and somewhere around here is the piece I was wanting. Oh, there, it's up here. This thing took some serious damage. That's why I'm saying it needs a PID controller. It's not a maybe statement there. It needs one. Oh, one of the other pipes fell out of it. Is that cooked that pan? That pan was just as good looking as that other one. It may have been a little dusty and dirty, but it was not like warped and bent and mutilated and depressed and melted. That takes a lot of heat, 2100 degrees ish, but I'm thinking it was the brass that helped it kick over. You know what I mean? Like a what do you call that? Like borax does is what I'm trying to get at. I think it caused the problem, but maybe not is what I'm saying. Maybe not. It all seemed to be working, but the oxidization is more than likely from the galvanized crying out. And I said that so clear. Do not use other metal. It has to be this, and I remember saying it to y'all, and I blew it myself just by forgetting that stupid nut underneath there. That's what happens. You know, sometimes you do stuff just to watch it fail so you can learn what you did wrong. I really do have empathy for Elon Musk when he blows up them rockets, because this is like $100, $200, you know, a little experiment. He trashes $100 million experiments. Wow, that's incredible. But I'll stick to my $100 crashes. I'll figure it out and I'll work from there. But yeah, we'll go with an air induction at first and see if that can fix it. You know, if I can get longer longevity on the element. I did not expect it to melt the stainless steel. That's pretty intense. The PID controller is a definite. That'll cut it off at like 1,000 degrees. It won't get near this temperature. This is upwards of 2,000 degrees, y'all. This is a lot of saturated heat right there. It just needs to do a little bit better. I figured that the aluminum would have took more damage than the stainless steel, but that's the way the air was flowing in. It only got hot after it stopped working, is what I'm trying to get at. And then it was like less than 700, so the aluminum was fairly safe, but not over the top of the element, burning a dissimilar metal. Man, what a deal. Okay, well, you know who you're talking to now, so remember that. What a maroon. Yeah, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Definitely go probably with a thicker stainless steel pan. That was needed. The copper did good. The copper has a fairly high melting point compared to aluminum, but the air was coming in one direction. We'll see if we can't. We need a PID controller. That's really what it comes down to. This project needs to get like a $500 injection of funds. But is it viable for the solar and the off-grid excess energy? Oh my word, yes. Oh my word. If you notice, I don't even have socks on this morning. It is like way too warm to even think about that. I'm in my BVDs and I'm sweating this morning. And that's just because of this bad lad right here is still warm. And that croaked off early in the afternoon yesterday. So it's still holding good temperature. And it would be on already this morning if it hadn't died, is what I'm trying to get at. So it would fast recovery. It was still warm and it would be recovering already. So this is definitely workable. We just got to get around the element like nuking itself, whether that's by inducing more air to it, which would be the plausible way. The only thing bad about this is pushing air straight down to come back and come out. It would be a lot better if this tube was coming in sideways. But because it's down inside this well, I don't have that option. I can't like drill 10 inches of concrete out. I don't even own them kind of tools, is what I'm trying to get at. But that would take, like a big bore, like a foundation drill bit is what I'm trying to get at, to go through a service bit for the foundation is what it would take. I used to have a 3/4 inch whole hog saw or a whole hog drill. I don't even know if I own that dude anymore. It's been so long. It was like Arkansas back when I was building the railroad tied retainment things and stuff like that. Long time back when I had my sawmill working on the mountain. The last time I ever remember that drill being around. And there was a lot of tools that I didn't take in the divorce that I figured she needed, and that may have been one of the tools that I left. I never thought I would need a 3/4 inch hole hog again, but that's the only way you'd open this up. And I'm still not sure that's the way to do it, because then you'd have to figure out a way to seal the sand away or on the inside. Probably like an RTV, the silicone or whatever like that. And that could also be, no, that oxidization is from the brass, because it's not coming over from the silicone. I was going to say the silicone may have caused the oxidization, but I don't think so. It was the brass melting. Well, I bet you that was a hell of an eerie glow in there. Wow. That would have been cool to get on film. That would have just been pretty cool. But what I was meaning is the lid here is I had some cake pans that I was flirting with buying. They were thicker, deeper. I might pick up something like that to keep it from doing that, where it melted the core out. That's pretty stinking hot, y'all. Wow, that's crazy hot. But the PID controller will keep it from ever getting that hot. The air will keep it like distributed and all that stuff too. And what I was meaning about these little pipes that I had is to cross drill them, is to drill a hole straight through the diameter of it in small, like 1/8 or 1/4 inch pipe, the little tubing, and pass it through there and just crimp it on each end. It wouldn't matter if the sand got into the cross tube or not, but you're just trying to keep it out of the bottom, because it definitely crystallized. I mean, those are like on there. They're welded to the copper, and they're definitely welded to the bottom of that stainless steel. That Y is a stainless steel Y underneath that element. And definitely welded to it. I mean, I would hate to fall against that. That'd be like falling against 1,000 grit sandpaper. No, the other way. It'd be about 1 grit sandpaper, buddy. That just eats your hide right off of you. That just take your hide right off of you. Well, that's where we're at on the sand battery. It was a fail. It wasn't optimal results. But in the end, we learned a lot from it, or at least I did. And we'll go from there. That's all. We will go from there. But I'm almost sure that the white oxidization was the brass burning when it finally, the brass in the quartz while it was fusing, and caused that. And probably what caused it to flux, to act like a flux is what I'm saying, to make the stainless steel melt. Because that's quite a bit, y'all. That pooched that stainless steel out like a lot. That's a half a finger thickness that it's pooched out this way, where the weight of the sand, that was droopy enough that the weight of the sand easily molded that, is what I'm saying. That's hot. So, PID controller, forced induction, and we'll probably do the forced induction with the PID controller wide open and see how it handles it, burn up another one. I know y'all probably think I just like tearing shit up, but I really don't. I just like to know what is the failure. Where is it going to die? And this got so hot that this should not have failed. With any amount of like forced air or anything like that, this wouldn't have happened, is what I'm trying to get at. Any amount of PID controller would have kept this from happening. So this is fixable. From here on out, we got it. And especially if we put it in something tall, like a single pass, a single or even a double pass. That whole loop-de-loop pipe thing that I was talking about, that would heat up more sand, but it really wouldn't be necessary. Just cross-drill the pipe and make them one straight-up down pipe, and just cross-drill it. Put, pieces of thin copper tubing in there. That'd be more than enough. But just make sure that there's air being forced through it. That's the other key. Eventually, might have to go up from 3/4 to something bigger. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that's was the problem, was the limiting issue. But can't really tell. We'll figure it out when we burn up another one. By then we'll get it worked out, is what I'm trying to say. That, and this is paper thin. This is just one of them element covers. It's not even as thick as a cake pan. It's just real thin. It's even thinner than a bowl. With my stainless steel bowls and stuff, it's real thin stuff, y'all. And it's probably not actual stainless steel either. It's just, like a mimic of it through, it's in the threes, but it's not like real, not like 316 or 304 is what I'm saying. So, but lot of little dumb stuff to be suspect of. But did it get hot enough? Yeah. Did it achieve everything it should have achieved? You bet. And did it work? You bet it did. It was late in the afternoon. I was almost to shut it off. Had I shut it off before I went outside, it probably wouldn't have failed, is what I'm trying. But it would have failed eventually. It just wouldn't have failed. I wouldn't have learned as much from it. Learning when it died, how it died, was better than learning secondhand tomorrow by something that survived by accident. So it was a learning lesson. That's how we got to look at it. All right, talk to you then, y'all. Okay, bye.